What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast, your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. I'm Owen W. James, and this is your video, guys. Look, guess I'm not at home, as you can tell, out and about, but still bringing you the latest news here from the UK. We're going to do some reflections, some opinion on some different things that have come out. We've got the fact that Green Bay are scared of that man, and I can prove it because of what? Oh, what that man? I mean, the Iceman himself. Yes, Mr. Caleb Williams. Micah Parsons, afraid to even say his name. Jeez, guys, we'll talk about that. We've also got more on the stadium. All the latest on the stadium, guys. We've got some more on that. And we're going to talk as well a little bit about one of my favourite Chicago players at this moment in time. The man himself, Mr. Mario, Colston Loveland. Love that song. Keep playing it all the time now, thanks to Colston. No, I'm not going to sing it, so I don't want you turning off. Obviously, if you just found the channel, please obviously like, comment, share, and subscribe. Obviously, smash that like if you are a fan of Colston Loveland. Right, let's start off with a little bit, shall we, about the Iceman himself. You know, look, Caleb Williams, he's still got his critics. Of course he has. Even within the Bears fan base, the Bajan baddies are still out there criticising our Caleb. But Caleb is the Iceman. How many times does this guy need to lead those fourth quarter comebacks? How many times does this guy need to make one of those throws where you go, how did he do that before those critics go away? This guy is a top level talent. He is going to be the future of this franchise. He's going to be a tier 1 quarterback. Elite with his feet, and then his arm strength, elite. I mean, that throw, running backwards, stops, turns, 60 yards in the air to Cole Kmet to tie the game up against the Rams' elite arm strength. Yes, we know that he needs to work on his accuracy. Going through his progressions, that will come. I'm sure that will develop further this coming season. Now, we know that against the Green Bay Packers, not only did he beat them once, did he beat them twice, but he's actually beat them 3 times. He's becoming a bit of a bogeyman. And, you know, look, I remember a certain Green Bay quarterback running to the Bears fans and shouting, "I freaking own you." Well, is this man here starting to own the Green Bay Packers? You know, are we going to be looking in a couple of years where Caleb can go to the Packers fans and go, "I freaking own you"? Possibly. Anyway, let's look at these comments. These were made by Micah Parsons. This was all around a bit of a joke that kind of got out of hand. Myles Garrett trolled Micah Parsons with the Iceman celebration. Micah Parsons then spoke a little bit about what happened after, you know, he talked about when he was challenged and obviously spoken to about Myles Garrett, the NFL sack leader, obviously, you know, taking the mickey a little bit out of Parsons. This is what Parsons said in reference to that playoff game. We was winning that game, describing the Packers Week 16 matchup with the Chicago Bears, also the last game of the season, sorry, and then it was lost again. As he spoke, Garrett silently mimicked Caleb Williams' iconic celebration following his game-winning touchdown pass. That was in response to what Micah Parsons said. "Don't even start with him," Parsons said after some laughter. "I can't lie, watching that person, seeing him get that nickname, it's just kinda..." What's interesting there, guys, and it's interesting throughout the entire point of this interview that went on, not once could Micah Parsons bring himself to say Caleb's name. Couldn't do it. Just could not do it. Guys, they are running scared. They are proper running scared of Caleb Williams. Micah Parsons, the man himself, the mouth himself, is running scared massively of this man. And like I said, this was all in response to the fact that Myles Garrett hilariously trolled Micah Parsons about him, about the man himself. This was on on Myles Garrett's podcast. You know, he sort of pulled this out, and you know, like I said, Myles Garrett was the man mimicking the Iceman celebration, and that was Parsons' response to that. Like I said, he can't even bring himself to say Caleb's name. The fear factor is there. They're scared of him. They're scared of Caleb because we finally got a quarterback who they can't handle, who they know, no matter what the situation, can bring us back from wherever. But I just find the whole situation around that Micah Parsons not being able to say Caleb's name pretty funny, guys. Pretty funny indeed. Right, let's talk a little bit of new stadium. Now, obviously, Kevin Warren, Bears CEO, is doing a pretty good job in kind of playing one off against another, isn't he? You know, the whole situation around Illinois, the whole situation around Gary, Indiana. He's doing a pretty good job, and I think, you know, the whole kind of point we're at now in terms of the stadium is kind of down to the fact that people in Illinois, including Governor J.B. Pritzker and the people in that area, in Arlington Heights, are kind of getting worried that the Bears might leave Illinois, and they don't want that. And I think J.B. Pritzker obviously realises that, you know, he's going to come up for re-election eventually, and he doesn't want this on his CV, losing the Chicago Bears from the state of Illinois. He's obviously realised that, you know, this is a real threat now, that Indiana, that Gary, Indiana, has become a real option because of the fact that, you know, Indiana is offering so many incentives for the Bears to come. Now, state leaders and local leaders are putting together a public funding package for the Arlington Heights location. State legislative leaders are working to make sure that ticket prices at the stadium will be affordable. In response to obviously giving the Bears what they want. Now, the Bears have always been absolutely clear. It's not a stadium we want. We don't want the state of Illinois or the Arlington Heights locality to build a new stadium. That's not what we want. They've always said the Bears want to build their own stadium, pay for their own stadium, own their own stadium. It's a money spinner. But they do want infrastructure. They do want utilities put in properly around that site. You know, to make it easy to get to make it easy for fans to access, to have facilities around that site for fans to use. And I think, you know, people in Arlington Heights, the mayor of Arlington Heights, the Governor Pritzker needs to realise that obviously that opportunity brings a lot of money into that area. Now, speaking on Fox, Pritzker said this. He says, "We're in consistent conversation with the Chicago Bears. The most important I would make is we're not going to do anything that's bad for taxpayers. We're helping businesses build infrastructure and other things that are available to any business that's growing or building something new in the state of Illinois that's putting people to work. Those are normal incentives, and that's what I'd expect we'll end up with for the Bears." So it looks like, you know, they're kind of backing down on this whole infrastructure project, and that, you know, this is going to certainly be a situation that will progress. Now that the governor of Illinois and the area of Arlington Heights are seemingly realising that keeping the Bears in Illinois is an absolute vital situation for them and for the state of Illinois. So good news on that front. And certainly, you know, look, if you look at the renderings of the new stadium with the retractable dome roof and all the other things allegedly coming to surround it, it looks pretty damn good, doesn't it? I mean, it does look like an amazing stadium. I've heard some people kind of draw similarities with Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, but it is certainly a fantastic stadium. But look, I think we all just want the Bears to remain in Illinois. That's their home. That's where we belong. As close to Chicago as possible. Yes, we prefer it to be in the city, but that's not possible. If Arlington Heights is the only location we can get in the state of Illinois, let's go for it, guys. And let's hope that J.B. Pritzker has finally realised and got his head out of his ass for long enough to realise he needs to do everything he can in his power to keep the Bears in Illinois. Right, let's talk now a little bit about Mr. Colston Loveland. Where's my stat picture gone? There it is. There's the man himself, Mr. Colston Loveland. Ben Johnson has been talking about how he was never in doubt about taking Colston Loveland with the first pick, the 10th pick overall in last year's draft. I think, you know, look, when Colston Loveland was the Bears selection, there were a few people out there that raised eyebrows. People thinking, should have been Tyler Warren, should have been this player. You know, why were you selecting a tight end? But for me, what Johnson is saying, you've got to trust Ben. Ben is saying that, look, there was never any doubt this guy is going to be a star. And I think we saw, as the season progressed, how much Colston grew in confidence and how much Colston brought to the offense. In fact, you know, look, if you look at the statistics, Colston Loveland actually led the Bears for receiving yards ahead of DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Cole Kmet. He was the receiving leader for the Bears last season. Absolutely fantastic in terms of what he achieved in his rookie season. Now let's break that down a little bit for his stats. So he had, out of 82 targets, 58 receptions, 713 yards in the regular season, averaging 12.3 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns with a long of 58. You know, look, he also had one carry as well. That was for -2 yards. That didn't really work out. In the postseason, he had 25 targets, 12 receptions, 193 yards, averaging 16.1, no touchdowns. So overall, last season, you know, he was certainly a fantastic option there. Yes, you know, I think some of the drops perhaps could be ruled out, and some of the drops could perhaps be better. I think that's something that Colston will work on. Obviously, less than 50% success rate post-season. But, that is going to come in time. And I think also, a lot of what Colston does, if you look at where he puts himself, on the line, in terms of getting hit, going into situations where he is under pressure, taking that ball, contested catches, that's a big part of Colston's game. I mean, the game-winning touchdown against the Bengals, for example, that is what Colston does. And obviously he did exit the game against the Rams with an injury. So he is a guy who puts his body on the line for the team. But certainly, Ben saying that this was not a gamble, this was never a gamble, I think Ben has been proved ultimately right. And in Colston Loveland, I think we've got one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and also a guy who's going to go on to be one of the best tight ends ever to play in the NFL. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Colston Loveland. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Drop me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on those stories. Bear down.